Karen's bulldozer roared louder than her voice, which was saying something, because she was screaming about her rights over my land like a dictator claiming a continent. The woman had the audacity to park a construction crew on my property, tearing up my grass to build a driveway she swore was shared. It was a crisp October morning in our quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind where leaves crunched underfoot and the air smelled faintly of wood smoke. I'd lived in my modest two-story house for a decade, a place I'd poured my savings into after years of scraping by. The backyard was my pride, neatly mowed, with a small vegetable garden and a wooden swing where my daughter, Lily, played. Across the fence was Karen, my neighbor of 2 years, whose personality was as subtle as a foghorn. She was a heavy-set woman in her late 50s, with a permanent scowl and a habit of glaring at anyone who dared park too close to her curb. Karen didn't just walk, she stomped, as if the earth owed her something. She'd once yelled at a delivery guy for breathing too loudly near her mailbox. Nobody liked her, but we tolerated her. Until that morning. I woke to the sound of machinery grinding outside my window. At first, I thought it was roadwork down the street, but when I glanced out, my heart sank. A bulldozer was ripping through the edge of my backyard, flattening the grass I'd spent years tending. A crew of 3 workers in orange vests were unloading cement bags, and there, directing them like a general, was Karen. She stood with her hands on her hips, her loud voice barking orders over the rumble of the engine. I threw on a jacket and stormed outside, my pulse racing. "Karen, what the hell is going on?" I shouted, striding toward the fence line. The bulldozer paused, and the workers glanced nervously between us. She turned, her eyes narrowing as if I were a bug she'd just noticed. "This is my driveway project, Tom," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "I'm exercising my shared right to this strip of land. You didn't think you owned it all, did you?" I blinked, dumbfounded. "Shared right? This is my property. I have the deed, the survey, everything." Karen smirked, her chins wobbling as she shook her head. "Oh, Tom, you're so naive. I checked with the city. This patch here," she gestured vaguely at the torn-up earth, "is a shared easement. I'm well within my rights to build here. You should thank me. I am improving the neighborhood." My blood boiled. An easement? I'd never heard of such a thing, and I'd studied every inch of my property documents when I bought the place. I stormed back inside, grabbed my deed and the surveyor's report from 2015, and returned to confront her. The workers had resumed digging, and Karen was now sipping coffee from a mug that read "Boss Lady," looking smug as ever. "Karen, this is my land," I said, holding up the papers. "The survey shows the boundary line clear as day. You're trespassing." She didn't even glance at the documents. "You think your little papers scare me? I've been here longer than you, and I know how things work. This is happening, Tom. Deal with it." I was shaking with rage, but I knew arguing with her was like wrestling a pig in mud. You'd just get dirty, and the pig would enjoy it. Instead, I called the police. Within 20 minutes, Officer Daniels arrived, a no-nonsense man with a clipboard and a tired expression. Karen, undeterred, launched into a tirade about her rights, waving her arms and citing some vague city ordinance she claimed to have read. The officer listened patiently, then asked to see my documents. I handed them over, my hands still trembling. Daniels studied the deed and survey, then looked at Karen. "Ma'am, based on this, the land belongs to Mr. Harper. You need to stop construction immediately." Karen's face turned beet red. "This is outrageous. I'll sue you all. I have a lawyer, you know." The officer didn't flinch. "You're welcome to call your lawyer, but you're trespassing. Cease the work, or you'll be cited." The workers, sensing the shift, began packing up their tools. Karen screamed at them to keep going, but they ignored her, clearly unwilling to risk legal trouble. I watched, my anger slowly giving way to a grim satisfaction. But Karen wasn't done. She stormed off, muttering about injustice and corrupt systems, leaving the torn-up earth as a scar on my backyard. That afternoon, I called my lawyer, Sarah, a sharp woman who'd helped me with the house purchase. She reviewed the documents and confirmed what I already knew. There was no easement, shared or otherwise. Karen had either lied or deluded herself into believing she had a claim. Sarah filed for an emergency injunction to halt any further trespassing and prepared a lawsuit for property damage and emotional distress. "This is open and shut," she said. Karen's in deep trouble. The next day, I learned more about Karen's scheme. A neighbor, Mrs. Patel, who'd lived on the street for 20 years, told me Karen had tried a similar stunt a decade ago, claiming a corner of another neighbor's yard for a community garden that never materialized. She'd bullied her way through until the neighbor moved away. Karen thrived on intimidation, but this time, she'd picked the wrong fight. The injunction hearing was set for a week later. In the meantime, Karen doubled down. She posted a rant on the neighborhood's online forum, calling me a greedy land hoarder and claiming she was beautifying the community. She even had the gall to send me a letter demanding I split the cost of her driveway project, since it would benefit us both. I laughed bitterly and forwarded it to Sarah, who added it to the evidence pile. The hearing was a spectacle. Karen showed up in a garish floral dress, her lawyer looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. She argued that the land was historically shared based on a handshake agreement with the previous owner, a claim she couldn't prove. My surveyor testified, presenting detailed maps that left no room for doubt. The judge, a stern woman with no patience for nonsense, granted the injunction and ordered Karen to pay for the damage to my property. The lawsuit was still pending, but Sarah was confident we'd win. Back home, the neighborhood buzzed with the news. Karen's reputation, already shaky, was in tatters. People stopped by to offer support, some sharing their own stories of her overbearing behavior. Mrs. Patel brought me homemade samosas, saying, "That woman's been a menace too long. Good for you, Tom." But the real blow came a month later. Karen's driveway project had been financed with a loan she couldn't repay without selling part of her property, a process now stalled by the lawsuit. Rumors swirled that she was facing foreclosure. I didn't rejoice in her downfall, but I couldn't muster much sympathy either. She'd tried to steamroll over my life without a second thought, and now her actions had caught up with her. One evening, as I sat on my porch watching Lily swing in the backyard, I noticed Karen's house was eerily quiet. No shouting, no bulldozers, no demands. The torn-up patch of land had been repaired, thanks to a contractor Sarah recommended. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine again. I thought about what Mrs. Patel had said. Karma doesn't miss. Karen had built her empire on entitlement, but it crumbled when she overreached. I hoped she'd learn something, but I wasn't holding my breath. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange, I felt a weight lift. My home was safe, my daughter was happy, and the neighborhood felt a little lighter without Karen's shadow looming over it. Justice wasn't loud or dramatic, it was steady, like the ground beneath my feet. And that was enough. The end.